That's Damien's dumbass of the week. All right, moving on to our last topic. Twitch is chomping at the bits for this one.
Yep.
Look, all right, we all saw that spot. Oh, there's a typo. We all we all saw the spot. Is Mox unfairly criticized for the same things that Terry Funk and Mick Foley are praised for? I said it in the opening monologue. Like Mox bleeding every week, doing these crazy spots is nothing new. Um, and it's always opinions and Twitter fingers afterwards. But likewise, Terry Funk, Mick Foley were doing the same thing in the '90s, and they're hardcore legends. So is this a double standard? Twitch.
I will go last. I am going to let
you want to go last? All right,
I'm
cool.
gonna let y'all get it out.
Cool. I'll give you. So I'll start it. Is it a double standard? Absolutely. Let's call it what it is. It is. Regardless of the specific spot that happened this past Wednesday, it is a double standard. It is. Now, is it a dumb spot? Is it stupid? Absolutely. But that's not what we're arguing. Is there a double standard? It is. I think it's. Let me back up. I think it's a little bit of both of a double standard and it is fatigue. Mox does this same format of matches especially when there's a stipulation, when there's toys involved. So I kind of think it is kind of fatigue. We know how the Jon Moxley Max is going to go. But it is a double standard. I think likewise. Now, granted, I'm a secondhand experience. I've only know from, watching the shows and watching people's reactions after the fact. But I'm fairly certain that people were saying the same thing about Mick Foley, Terry Funk, and everything else about ECW for those years. And we're saying that this is stupid. This is not wrestling. This doesn't need to be on TV, blah, 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 blah. So I do believe it's a double standard. There's a whole category of wrestling called deathmatch wrestling that is insanely popular just as professional wrestling. Twitch being a deathmatch guy himself, like he knows, like there's a whole thing of death matches, like, and that's a thing. People do. People like it. That's Mox's world. Like before he was in WWE and he was in the old school CZW when Combat Zone Wrestling was the deathmatch promotion. That's where he got his name from. Like he got it from there. He made his name off of CZW. So this isn't new. But we've got to chill out because it's nothing new. We were doing this in the '90s, in the early 2000s. We were saying how bad this was, and then 20 years later, like we're over here saying Mick Foley is one of the greatest hardcore wrestlers ever, which he is. I mean, that's not a bad point. We're talking Terry Funk, legend this, legend that, when they're doing the same spots. I mean, exploding barbed wire death matches. Not the one from AEW.
Not
The real
AEW.
ones. The real ones.
Cool with that.
Not the cosplay ones. The real ones.
The cosplay ones.
Okay, the real ones. Look at that. So yeah, it's a double standard. It really is. Like the spot is disgusting. Like it is. Like he shouldn't have done it. Like that's a whole 2x4. There's no give on that joint. Like those are full nails. When I saw his skin move while they were trying to take it out, that was it for me. I was like, yeah, enough. I'm over it. But yeah, it's a double standard. We've got to chill out. Like we do. We got to chill out. Go ahead, Cliff.
Okay, so I guess I gotta figure out how to say this because do I think it's a double standard? I don't know because I feel like whenever I watch Mick Foley and Terry Funk, when there was color, right, it's because it was warranted in the match. Right? I don't think like you're in a death match, you're going to bleed. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what's going to happen. I mean, because when we look at it, I'll use a recent example. Right? Let's look at.
I think your mic cut off.
Yeah, something's up with your audio.
My
Yeah, you
audio's
sound
out.
far away.
Does it sound like I'm far away now?
No.
No, I got it. Yeah, that's better. But you got
Okay.
an echo.
Yeah. So my problem is that when I look at these matches, right? Here's my problem with it, right? Is Mox is like bleeding continuously for no reason. That's my problem. I saw him take a back bump on Dynamite and was like bleeding. Like it's not warranted. It's not. It doesn't make sense, right? But I'll use these two matches. I'll use this one match, right? Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, right? AW when they were in Georgia, right? And Britt busted her nose and she was just bleeding everywhere, right? And we talk about like how great that match was, right? It was unexpected. We never saw it, right? And we're like, damn, dude, Britt's hardcore because like here she's like bleeding out and she's just selling the fuck out of this whole thing. Um, Outside of that too, we just recently talked about how great the Hollywood ending match was. Those girls were bleeding all over the place and we were all about that, right? So when it comes down to Mox, man, it's just like every time I see Mox, though, man, he's bleeding for no reason, right? He's doing something for no reason. I think when the moment calls for it, yeah, I think there are times where I'm agreeing with it, but Punk kind of said it himself when he was at AEW. He's like, yo, you'll bleed for anything. He's like, I don't even want to touch you because I'm afraid if I hit you, you might just bleed on me or something. And it just feels that same way with him. When I watch someone like Mick Foley or I watched Terry Funk back in the days, like those matches, I don't remember seeing Mick Foley bleed um, in a Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? Like I didn't see it happen. I didn't see when Mick Foley was cosplaying as Santa. Like I didn't see it happen. You know what I mean? When I watch Mick Foley and Santino Marella do the sock versus the Cobra. I didn't see it happen. When I saw him get thrown off the fucking cage and through a chair or through the table, he wasn't bleeding then. But guess what? My man had a whole tooth in his nose and he was smiling. And and we were all for it, right? Like there are moments where like I can agree that like these hardcore matches, death matches, like have to happen, and we all understand the rules that we get when we sign up. We didn't say like we talked a lot of shit about Nick Gage versus Chris Jericho just because we were shitting on Chris Jericho, but that match low key was kind of fire, and it was a let's call it like a PG-13 death match. But when we saw the pizza cutter come out and hit Jericho in the head and he was bleeding out, we were there for it. So I'm just saying when it's called for, it makes sense. But when I watch Mox, man, like every single time I watch him, something's going on. I'm afraid to wave at Jon Moxley while he's wrestling in AEW because he might bleed on me. Like that's what it's felt like. And Mox doesn't need it. Yeah, Mox made his name in CZW. And, he was also a deathmatch guy. He was the GCW heavyweight champion when Matt Cardona was running around as the deathmatch king. Like, yeah, like I get it. I get where those make sense, but I just every time I turn around, man, he's doing something for nothing. It's like I'm not here for it. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. When the moment calls for it, I think it makes sense, but it just feels like Mox calls for it all the time.
All right, my guy. Floor is yours.
We didn't complain when Sabu was ripping his legs open with barbed wire and gluing himself shut. We didn't complain when Eddie Kingston was taking kebab scores to his forehead and having them hammered in. We didn't complain when Abdullah the Butcher was stabbing motherfuckers with forks. Why is it that we're complaining when Jon Moxley takes a back bump onto a 2x4 with nails on it? Is it just because of the company? Or is it literally because y'all have nothing better to do? This man came from CZW as his background, Combat Zone Wrestling, that specializes in what? Tournament of Death. Do you really think a person coming from that company is going to do anything else? No. So why are we bitching about it? We didn't bitch about it when Foley was doing it as Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie throwing themselves all over the place. We don't complain when other people do it. So is it just the company that you want to complain about letting them do it? I feel like it. What do you really expect from a man that, like you said, took a back bump and just decided I'm going to blade for no reason? Like, why is it now? Now, here's my retort to that. Why is it that we complain when Jon Moxley bleeds every week, but we don't when Tony Storm does?
So, like, are you still ranting off, or are you asking a question for me?
I'm asking a question for that one. Why do
Oh,
we complain?
okay. Because what's crazy is like when we see it happen with Tony, it's usually some kind of object that does it, right? I think just it just seems like what it felt like and what it feels like with Mox is that we've seen him on so long that he's taking like these crazy bumps, right? And we're like, oh, we're here for it. When he gets busted, we're like, oh yeah, because that makes sense. But it gets to a point where like you're taking these bumps every week, and we said the same thing about Darby. Darby taking all these crazy bumps, and we're like, bro, like, can you like save your body a little bit? Because like, yeah, we love the fact that he jumped off that ladder and went through the glass pane, and his back was shredded, and we are like, oh my god, it's kind of gross. Kind of here for it though, but
That's my thing is we cheer for it when it's Darby. What makes it so different when it's John?
because Mox, like, the reason why I'm gonna just take devil's advocate side on this one.
Go
The
ahead.
reason why is because Mox is doing it week in, week out, and we know
And Darby's not.
Darby's not doing it week in, week out like that.
Bro, how many
When,
times have we watched Darby jump off fucking ladders?
no, I'm talking about like just busting himself open and just like gushing out blood. Like,
Okay, okay, that I'll give you. I just I
I
feel
think
like
people are
we've seen
fatigued.
this.
I think they're blood fatigued. I'll be real. I think people are blood fatigued. When it comes to Mox, I think they're blood fatigued. When it comes to Tony Storm, I'm gonna be honest, it's because some of you guys just don't just it's a woman bleeding, and you're just like, oh my god, I've never seen this
Here,
before.
here's my next statement because
That's what it is.
here's
That's what it is. I was hoping somebody said that. The whole thing with Tony Storm not bleeding, it's because she's a woman and
you
you
don't
haven't
see it
seen
as much.
women bleed,
Yep.
at all.
It was the same with Becky Lynch. You don't see
Because
it
God
very much,
forbid a
and then
woman being a human.
her face
Yep.
implodes. But now here's where I argue that with you about it being John Moxley and him doing it every week. Ric Flair. The motherfucker would punch himself in the face and start bleeding in the middle of his promos for no reason. But we hold him to a golden standard. I'm
But
not
also
saying we need to go
when
ahead.
it comes to Rick, though, when Rick was bleeding in the ring, it's usually because some shit had happened. It wasn't because it was like, I don't know. I'll use another example of someone that shouldn't have been busted open. It's not Chris Daniels punching himself in the face as the camera's running towards him, you know.
Yeah, that we ain't even gonna acknowledge that.
I'm just pointing out like fans, they're fatigued with Mox always bleeding. That's what they're fatigued with.
I understand that, and my agreement with you with in that statement was once upon a time didn't AEW say they were stepping away from this every single week, and here we are still every single week with John Moxley bleeding. With that's where I will agree with you. Where I disagree is we've seen so many people do this. Wow, my sister. Ah,
That's why I'm laughing too.
my
Pull it up, pull it
sister.
up, pull the
Pull it
comment
up.
up, because that's what I'm laughing at too.
God.
My sister. How
Oh man, that was funny.
how we love her humor. But my argument is we've seen this from so many other people and it wasn't a big ordeal. But just because it's John Moxley, it is. Like I said, Sabu, Raven, Sandman, all of ECW every single week.
But there's a okay. Glad you brought that point up, right? ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling.
But
Like
then
we knew, but the thing is you've trained the audience on what to expect every week. You expect them to get busted open. You expect them to do everything, right? You expect these things to happen when you're doing with ECW. But what you're not expecting is on AEW, All Elite Wrestling, when you've told the fans, "Hey, we're going to go away from these blood spots." they're just Moxley's like, he said that, but that's not for me. Oh, I took a crazy back. I took a normal back bump. Like, I'm busted open now. Like, bro, I'm bleeding all over. Like, and you say, and I say it, but you've seen it. Like, we
I
have
have.
seen it
No,
happen.
we talked about it numerous times. I don't disagree with some of your points. I do disagree in the fact that it's. I can't even really disagree in the fact that it's just Jon Moxley because you're not wrong. It is just Jon Moxley. I just I feel like this is a case of picking and choosing who we want to be able to bleed and who shouldn't be able to.
But it goes back to my point of saying when we saw Swerve and Hangman Page have that cage match, right? And Swerve got busted open, and Chaz was all like, "Oh my god, I can't believe Hangman drank his blood and spit it out." Like we were all like, "Holy shit, that was crazy!" But if John would have done that, we also would have gone, "Oh my god, that is crazy," because that makes sense. But again, like I said, when it just happens randomly with John, it's just John. It happens so much with John that it's, and that's at the point that yeah, it's just a fatigue thing now. Like if it happened every so often, or maybe even if it happened at every pay per view, like we expect to see John Moxley get busted up at a pay per view, it would be one thing. But it just feels like every other week that John has a match, he's being busted open, and that's it.
I can respect that. I can respect that.
Because like I said, he goes back to Swerve and Heyman, or it goes back to Tony and Mariah, right? Like we watch these people just put themselves through Darby. We watch them put themselves through hell, and guess what happens? Like we just like, oh shit, man, they are doing their thing. We're here for it. But when it's Mox, man, it's just like week in, week out, or every other week. It just happens, or it just I don't know. It's just not connecting the same, and I think because it happens so much, it's just that's the reason why for me.
I also think it's the fact that we're over Mox. We're over the title reign.
That I don't
I
disagree with.
I also think that plays into effect of it. Like we're tired of it. We're tired of Moxley, and then you give us the same match again the week after,
Yeah.
and you gave us this ridiculous stipulation. Like if anything, you should have put that on the pay per view, and
Yeah.
I was
then
just about to say that should have been the pay per view.
yeah, swap it.
That should have
Yep.
totally been the pay per view.
Still do your stupid cash in on Dynamite. You would have probably got a pop in the ratings.
Yep. And you know what's
So,
crazy? It's like, and I'm not even, so for me, right? I'm not even against the spot. Like,
no,
I'm not
I'm
against
not
I
against it.
I think there's a safety thing. Like there's no give. Those are
As
straight
a
nails.
as a guy who has willingly been thrown through light tubes and a plethora of other things, uh, I'm here for it. You just couldn't pay me enough to do that.
and I think AEW, I would at least hope that AEW went through some precautions and making sure that, like, the
Went
nails,
to precaution. That man skin. That man.
Bro,
He got
yeah,
stuck. I don't care what anybody say.
I,
That shit went wrong.
listen,
He tried to pull it out, and that man's skin
bro,
was crunching up. No,
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 I'm just going to say,
no.
I'm going to take the advocate side and say, I'm pretty sure they went through, sanitized those nails before the match
I,
even
I'm
started.
not talking about that
And
part.
then I said,
I'm
hey,
talking about the puncture wound.
nah, man, I'm talking about that
Let me-
whole, because like at the end of the day we're all still gonna talk about it. But yeah, that man having what did he calls it? What does he call that the plank? He has a name for it.
oh, wasn't it Spike or
Is it
Spud?
Spike?
Something.
Something like
His
that.
name was
Anyway,
Spike.
yeah,
I think it's
to
called
see
Spike.
that hit him and then stick into him, I was like, oh my god. For me,
I'm
I
I'm
just
was
just
not even
like,
thinking
saying,
this
about
is
it.
kind of cool.
I try not to watch it.
I'm just saying, surface rust is a real thing.
Yeah. Well, like in the other part too, that was crazy to me was Wheeler just
Oh,
tugging at it.
oh man, the
It was
skin
just
just pulling
so
away. Oh
bad,
man,
bro. Yep. I was like,
Go to the
damn.
comments.
bro, give me light tubes any day of the week.
All right, here we go.
I take some light tubes. I do that.
Damien's
But I'm
dumbass
not
of the
taking no
week.
back bump on no 2x4 nigga.
Y'all's graphics are fire. Facts. Chaz.
Sabu.
That's Chaz. Sabu. But again, Sabu, ECW makes sense, right? Extreme Champion. That's what it is. That's what they're going for. Sabu in WWE. Guess what he wasn't doing? That same thing. And
Yeah,
we'll bring up another one.
which upset me as an 11-year-old who was like ECW, okay, and did his research, and who became a fan of Sabu, and what was his favorite guy to use on SmackDown versus Raw 2008, featuring ECW. Sorry,
Yeah,
that's real personal for me.
y'all told him to high ass standard because he was in the Shield. That spot was dumb as fuck. It literally stuck and hard to watch. It
Yes,
wasn't because he was in the
that's
Shield.
exactly fact. Yes. Well,
But-
no. Mox is held to a high standard because he was in the Shield.
No,
Absolutely.
he's in a higher standard because he was in the upper echelon of WWE. Has nothing to do with him being in the Shield. That's
It
the
definitely
problem.
has everything to do with the Shield.
No,
The Shield is.
doesn't.
What do you
It has to-
mean?
It
We set up here and
because
said
the
that the
Shield is what
Shield.
put him on the map. He, on the other hand, Dean Ambrose himself, right, was in the upper echelon of the WWE. When
Oh,
he
I mean,
left,
yeah.
we're not gonna be like, no, it's the Shield because he was in the Shield. No, because we didn't do that same thing when Seth Rollins was in the fucking Hell in a Cell with the Fiend, and we didn't shit on Seth Rollins for that match when he hit the Fiend with the giant ass sledgehammer and be like, well, we hold him to a higher standard because he was in the Shield. We didn't do that. We didn't do that to
But
Roman.
we did. But we still.
No, stop.
We did give him shit
I'm
though for
ranting
that
off
match.
here. No, and we didn't do that to Roman when he was in a match with Logan Paul and Logan Paul's second match ever in WWE, and we were like, oh well, he should be wrestling higher end standard because he was in the Shield. We didn't do that, so we're not doing that to Moxley.
What does the Logan
Stop
Paul
it.
match got to do with that?
No, I'm just saying. Exactly. We're like relevant things to make something add up. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, no, was that spot dumb? Probably to some people, just because it was stuck to his skin. It was hard to watch. But hey, but to use this Shield as the reason why we hold this man to a higher standard, no, that's not. No, shut up.
It is.
I'm just saying.
Sorry, Noah. Love you. No.
The people that think that was hard to watch really need to go sit down and watch Tournament of Death.
I'd rather not.
Do you think it was supposed to be that way? No, I don't think it was supposed to stick to his skin.
No,
I'll be honest.
Not at all.
Twitch Charlie's waving at you.
Bye, Charlie.
Balls Mahoney 3D through the fire table. I mean, we can also go Edge and Mick Foley through the fire table.
Mick Foley.
You know? Or when Undertaker chokeslammed fucking Spike Dudley out of the ring. And you know what Spike didn't do? Bust himself open. It was like, I'm bleeding out crazy. The rant 3, 2, 1. Hepatitis. Laughing my motherfucking ass off at Red Dog. I'm held to a golden standard. Yes, you are. It's literally in your last name. Sandman, before he even started the match. Again, Sandman, ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling. Guess what he wasn't doing when he was in WWE? Wasn't doing the same thing.
You're right. They did stop him. It's funny because he did. There was a point in the beginning. He was still doing the can.
Yeah.
And then he stopped and like randomly.
Yep.
You're right. I do remember that.
They ended that quick.
I was gonna go there because he did it the first time, and then they're like, "Well, we already have a beer chugging guy."
Yeah.
His name's Stone Cold Steve Austin. He said, so obviously this is this comment right here, right? Women bleed every month, and then I was gonna go there, or I wasn't gonna go there. Dean laughing. Blood cells. It does, but to an extent,
it does.
To an extent, though, it does become repetitive, and it seems like you're just trying to grab ratings, and no one wants to pay attention to that.
Matt Cardona.
You know what's crazy though is you notice he also got away from that whole thing too.
Yep.
Yeah,
but he does bring it back every once in a while, and that's when we pop for it, and that's why he didn't get over.
Okay.
How many people did Lawler set on fire?
A lot. A lot. That's all we're gonna go with.
He said someone needs to be let out for their walk. Fuck you, Dean.
See, there he goes starting shit, but we're not allowed to.
On that note, thank you for checking out this edition of the 3 Count Podcast, Chaz and friends. My PlayStation users, you get a trophy. My Xbox users, you get an achievement. Damien is your dumbass of the week. There is no other choice. Yeah. Thank you for checking us out, though. We'll be back next week. We're debating who's the face of the WWE Women's Division: Rhea Ripley or Bianca Belair. That'll be topic one straight off, like right there. Boom. So since Cliff really
Suck
tried
a
to say
bag
that.
of dicks, Dean.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god.
We
Okay,
still get a
all
lot
right.
of these comments in here too. Sabu, hold on. Sandman and Sabu didn't get over in WWE because they weren't allowed to be Sabu and Sandman. Sabu was
Facts.
definitely over in
Sabu, Sabu
in
was
WWE.
over in
Sabu was over,
WWE.
yeah, because he
They
was still
didn't know
getting.
what to do with him.
Yeah, they didn't know. But and I'll say this. Sandman though, like because he had to change up his gimmick and stuff like that, like, yeah, there was already somebody in there like doing the thing that he was doing in ECW. So that's I mean, he was just a dude with a cane at that point. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I love it. So, and then smiles. All right, man. Yeah, you already said your thing.
Yeah. Peace out. Next week. This week. Now into the ring 201. Now into the ring. Villains Lounge, possibly. Yeah. Run it. Get it off of here. Get this out of here before y'all go take this beef on Twitter. Go on Twitter and tell.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode of the 3 Count Podcast. If you like this and you want more 3 Count Podcast, go on over to our YouTube page, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button so you never miss when we put out a video. Also, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, all things social media, 3 Count Pod, _ X, 3 Count Pod, everything else. Also, make sure you buy our merch at foryourwear.com and prowrestlingtees.com. Also, you know what? Just watch another video right now. Like, right now, I'm gonna walk away and you're gonna play another video.